Okay. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone, wherever you are in the world. And thank you for taking time to join us for today's webinar surrounding the importance of oral language. So, language is a fundamental aspect of communication, serving as a powerful tool for expressing thoughts, ideas, and emotions. The development of language skills in children is a multifaceted approach that involves various interconnected systems: phonology, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. The communication is a dynamic process encompassing both receptive and expressive language abilities. In this webinar, we're going to delve deep into these intricacies, exploring how language works and how it shapes our ability to connect with others effectively. We'll examine the building blocks of language, receptive and expressive language, and the interconnectedness of these language systems. My name is Will McNeil, and I'm the International Business Manager at OxEd. I've worked with international schools throughout my career with a focus on teaching and learning solutions, business critical edtech, and exciting emerging technologies. I'm joined here by Sarah Hearn, who's Research Officer at OxEd and Assessment. Sarah holds an MSc in social cognition and a BSc in psychology. And prior to joining OxEd, Sarah worked at the University of Oxford on research into the effectiveness of the Nuffield Early Language Intervention Programme, using Language Screen, and supported the rollout of Nelly to around 11,000 schools across England. Sarah now manages and develops OxEd's online training and supports our engagement with schools in the UK and internationally. Now, before I hand over to Sarah, I'd like to start with just a quick poll. So rating 1 to 5, with 5 being amazingly well and 1 being not well at all, do you feel your curriculum adequately focuses on oral language development of children in early years? I'll just share that now. Should all see that now. First time we've done this, so might be a couple of teething issues. Okay. A few more seconds on there to see if we get any more responses. There we go. Let's share those results. So some quite interesting results there. We've got fair number of 3s and 4s, a few 5s, and then a few that don't feel that the curriculum really adequately focuses. So hopefully by the end of this session, you'll all be oral language champions with some good ideas to adapt around your curricula. So without too much further ado, I'm just going to hand over to Sarah.
Thank you, Will. So to begin, let's have a look at how language works. All right, so language starts with sounds, and these sounds are the building blocks of words and ultimately sentences. In each language, there's a specific set of sounds that combine to create words. And these sounds, which are called phonemes, can sometimes be tricky because changing one sound can completely alter the meaning of a word. So for instance, if you consider the words bat and cat, both words are very similar except for the initial sound, the b in bat and the k in cat. Changing just one sound in these words changes their entire meaning. And this is why understanding the sounds of a language or phonology is so important. Now, once we've mastered sounds and using those sounds in words, we move on to forming sentences. Think of syntax as the set of rules that dictates how words are put together to convey meaning. Different languages have different rules, and understanding them is absolutely crucial in effective communication. So for example, in English, we often use the subject, verb, object, word order. For example, she plays chess follows this pattern, with the subject, she, the verb, plays, and the object, chess, in that order. Recognizing these syntactic patterns helps us to understand how sentences are structured and put together. So that's why that's a really important aspect of language. So next, words are the vehicles for conveying meaning. And when we use words, we want others to understand what we mean, of course. And this is where semantics comes into play. Semantics is all about word meanings and how they relate to our thoughts and our experiences. So if you consider the words dog and cat, in these in our minds, these words represent specific things: a furry, loyal companion for dog and a graceful, independent pet for cat. Understanding these meanings is essential for effective communication because words are our way of sharing our thoughts and experiences with others. But language isn't just about words and sentences, it's also a tool for social interaction. Pragmatics deals with how we use language in different social contexts. It helps us to navigate social situations, to understand implied meanings, and to adapt our communication style. So imagine saying, "Could you pass the salt?" In a restaurant, this is a polite request for someone to just hand you the salt, but perhaps during a heated argument, for example, the same words could take on a completely different tone, possibly conveying sarcasm or irritation. And so pragmatics guides us in using language appropriately and understanding the social cues that accompany it. So another way to break down the complex and interconnected skills that we need in order to communicate effectively is to think about receptive versus expressive language. Receptive language is our ability to understand and interpret what others are saying to us, and it involves several crucial steps. The first is listening and paying attention, because listening is the foundation of receptive language. To understand someone, we need to pay close attention to what they're saying. And this involves not just hearing the words, but also picking up on nonverbal cues like facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice. So, for instance, when a teacher is telling a story in class, students need to listen attentively, not only to the words, but also to the teacher's expressions and gestures to fully grasp the emotional context of the story. Once we've honed our listening skills, we start learning words. We associate sounds with specific meanings and gradually building our vocabulary. For example, we learn that apple refers to a particular type of fruit rather than anything else. And understanding individual words is a significant step, but language often comes in the form of sentences. So to make sense of what's being said, we need to understand how words fit together in a sentence, and therefore you need to know the rules of how sentences are constructed. For example, if someone says the cat chased the mouse, our knowledge of sentence structure would help us to understand that a cat is chasing a mouse, not a mouse chasing a cat or anything else for that matter. And ultimately, receptive language is about comprehending the overall meaning. It's not just about understanding isolated sentences, but also about connecting those sentences to form a coherent mental representation of that message. And this includes interpreting non-literal language such as idioms and metaphors and grasping the bigger picture. For example, when we hear the phrase raining cats and dogs, we understand that it's not just a description of animals falling from the sky, rather it's a saying that means it's raining really heavily. And this is dependent, your understanding of this is dependent on experience of hearing these phrases, but also developmental age. As children under the age of 6, for example, tend to take things very literally. So we should try to avoid using non-literal language with children at this age where we can. All right, now let's flip the coin over and talk about expressive language, which is our ability to convey our thoughts, ideas, and emotions to others through speech. Now, this involves several skills. The first is choosing the right words. When we want to communicate something, we need to select the right words to say what we mean. So building a robust vocabulary is essential for expressing ourselves accurately. For instance, if we want to describe a sunny day, we might need a range of words like bright, warm, and clear in order to get our thoughts across. Then constructing meaningful sentences requires arranging words in a logical sequence. It's like putting together a puzzle. If we want to say that pizza is our favourite food, we must choose the right words and put them in the right order, like saying, pizza is my favourite, or even my favourite is pizza. Which one of these sentences is most appropriate might depend on the context, which goes back to the pragmatics point earlier. And next is telling stories. We often communicate not just through isolated sentences, but by weaving them together to tell stories or share experiences. Effective storytelling involves connecting sentences to convey a sequence of events or ideas. For instance, we might describe a fun day at the park by linking sentences together to describe what happened at the start of the day, during the day, and at the end of the day. And finally, clear communication, so speaking clearly, is essential. When we talk, we want others to understand it. Speaking clearly involves enunciating words and sentences so that they're easy to grasp, and it also includes listening to ourselves, evaluating how we're coming across, and making corrections if needed. Now, although for the purposes of this presentation, we've separated out the systems of language, so that was phonology, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics, from the receptive and the expressive communication processes, in reality, all of these systems and aspects of communication are completely interconnected and interwoven with each other. And here are just some examples. So first, learning the sounds of a language is a significant part of receptive language. Recognizing these sounds helps us to understand words better. For instance, being able to distinguish between cat and bat, which are the examples we used earlier, relies on our familiarity with these sounds. And what's more, as we develop our phonological awareness, we begin to recognize sound patterns like rhymes and alliteration, and these skills contribute to our ability to understand and interpret spoken language effectively. Understanding sentence structure plays a crucial role in both receptive and expressive language. When we understand syntactic rules, we can recognize how sentences are structured when listening to others. This understanding also helps us to speak more clearly, as we can apply these rules when constructing our own sentences. For example, learning that English generally uses the subject, verb, object, word order helps us not only to understand sentences like she eats apples, but also to construct sentences that follow this pattern when expressing our own thoughts. Next, semantics. Semantics, which is the study of word meanings, is central to both receptive and expressive language as well. When we listen, we rely on our understanding of word meanings to grasp what others are saying. And when we speak, we draw from our own vocabulary to convey our thoughts accurately. So as our semantic knowledge expands, we not only learn the meanings of individual words, but also the subtleties of word relationships. So that's synonyms, antonyms, and how words are used in various contexts. And this growth enhances our ability to express a wider range of ideas and emotions. And finally, pragmatics, the study of language in social contexts, plays a vital role in all aspects of communication, really. It guides us on how to use language appropriately in different social situations, and it also helps us to navigate social interactions, interpret implied meanings, engage in effective conversations, and adapt our communication style as well. So, for example, we might learn that using formal language is appropriate when speaking to a teacher or a supervisor, while a more casual style might be suitable when speaking with friends. And pragmatic skills also enable us to recognize and respond to non-verbal cues, such as body language and tone of voice, which are essential for successful communication.
So Sarah, understanding how language works and how we use it to communicate is a little bit like unraveling a puzzle. Language isn't just a collection of words, it's a dynamic system that enables us to connect with others, express our thoughts and emotions, and kind of share our experiences. As we grow, we continue to refine our language skills, expanding our vocabulary and enhancing our ability to conduct meaningful sentences. We learn how to adapt our communication style to different social contexts, ensuring that our words are not only linguistically accurate, but also fitting for the situation. In the end, language and communication are powerful tools that enable us to bridge gaps, build relationships, and connect with people from diverse backgrounds and cultures. Through the power of words, we can express our thoughts, feelings, and experiences, forming a universal bond that kind of transcends language barriers. So I think we should have another quick poll to check who's been listening. So which of these isn't a foundation of oral language? Phonology, syntax, dramatics, semantics, and pragmatics. Launch that now. Should have full marks for this one. Nice to see most people getting the correct answer. Okay, there we go. So, as a reminder, phonology is making sounds, syntax is building sentences, semantics is word meanings, and pragmatics is the social use of language. Now, dramatics is not a foundation of oral language, but some students might be quite confident and animated when they've mastered their oral language skills. So now we know about the importance and development of oral language. Back to you, Sarah, on its importance.
Great, thank you, Will. All right, so oral language is a fundamental aspect of human communication interaction. Hopefully you've seen that in the aspects that I've just been talking about. It serves as the foundation upon which we build our ability to express thoughts, establish relationships, and navigate various aspects of life, including education and mental health. So now I'm going to explore the crucial role that oral language plays in our lives, examining its significance in communication, education, mental health, and lifelong outcomes as well. And we're also going to dive into the concept of the Matthew effect, which we actually explored in last month's webinar as well, and how early intervention can mitigate its effects. So to start off, at its core, oral language is the bedrock of communication. It's the means by which we convey our thoughts, our feelings, and our ideas to others, fostering understanding and connection. Notably, oral language plays a pivotal role in forming friendships and building relationships between teachers and students as well. And for children, the ability to express themselves verbally is completely instrumental in forging bonds with peers and adults, enabling them to share experiences, to emphasize and to cooperate as well. But it's not just about intimate personal communication. Language serves as the primary medium of instruction in all aspects of education throughout our lives. From early childhood education to higher learning, language underpins our ability to acquire knowledge, to understand concepts and communicate our understanding. Without a strong foundation in oral language, students might struggle to comprehend lessons and engage with educational content. So next is mental health. The link between language skills and mental health is a critical one. Research has shown that a significant association between language difficulties and behavioural problems in school-aged children. When children struggle to express themselves effectively, they might become frustrated, leading to emotional and behavioural challenges. And language difficulties can hinder their ability to communicate their needs, to express their emotions, and to seek help when necessary. So the Matthew effect, which is a concept that might be familiar to some of you from last month's webinar, refers to the phenomenon where early disadvantages in language development lead to widening gaps in overall development. Children who face language difficulties in these formative years are at risk of falling behind in various areas of life, including education, behaviour, and emotional well-being. And this concept highlights the compounding nature of disadvantages, where initial setbacks can unfortunately lead to further challenges down the road. And this is really why the impact of early language deficits extends far beyond school years. Research has revealed a profound relationship between early language difficulties and poor lifetime outcomes in areas such as employment, mental health, and overall well-being. So children who struggle with language in their early years are unfortunately more likely to face challenges in their adult lives. But while the Matthew effect illustrates the potential for negative compounding effects, it also offers hope through the prospect of early intervention. We now know that by identifying and addressing language difficulties in their early stages, we can disrupt the Matthew effect and mitigate early disparities in ability. Early intervention programs designed to bolster oral language skills have shown promising results in levelling the playing field for children who would otherwise face significant disadvantages. One compelling body of evidence supporting the importance of early language intervention comes from the Nuffield Early Language Intervention, or the NELLI trials. These trials have demonstrated that early language intervention leads to significant improvements in language skills amongst young children. And what's more, the benefits extend beyond language development, encompassing improvements in behaviour and overall well-being as well. A recent follow-up trial also highlighted the longevity of these effects, with positive outcomes in language and word reading being found 2 years after the intervention was delivered. Also, another recent independent evaluation conducted by the National Foundation for Educational Research, or the NFER, also confirmed the positive impact of Nelly at scale and outside of trial conditions, finding that children made an average of 4 months additional progress in their language as a result of receiving Nelly, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that's great. And really, so to sum up, oral language is obviously undeniably important in various aspects of life, from facilitating that communication, enhancing education, to then impact mental health and lifelong outcomes. The Matthew effect underscores the potential for early disadvantages in language development that lead to enduring disparities in various areas. However, with a commitment to early intervention and targeted language programs like Nelly, we've got the power to disrupt that widening gap and provide children with the tools that they need to thrive. And recognizing the significance of oral language and investing in its development, we can then create a more equitable future for all children. So just a final poll before we pop into the Q&A. In general, how well do you feel you understand oral language development, with 1 being not very well, and 5 being amazingly well? Launching that one now. Glad to see people have learned something from this webinar, with not many not well at all. And okay, just share those results. And just while I'm sharing those, we actually provide a full suite of training on the importance of oral language within our Nelly and language screen solutions. So we not only provide a really highly data-driven assessment application for oral language proficiency, and the best evidence-backed intervention program Nelly, but we provide a full suite of training for professional development. So if you'd like to find out more about OxEd and how we can help your school, don't hesitate in reaching out to us. Thank you everyone for your time today. We'll look forward to welcoming you to our next webinar in October, surrounding the special educational needs and language development in greater detail. I'll just post that in the registration link for that in the chat now. I'll also send that over via email for you. I think it's time for a few questions with our Q&A, Sarah. So we've had one in here when it comes to the training with respect to the Nuffield Early Language Intervention Programme. What training is actually provided? How does it work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Nelly training consists of 3 linked connected courses. So the first one is called Language Fundamentals, and this covers actually lots of things that we've been talking about today, but in more depth. So the importance of good oral language development, the core language skills that children need, key teaching strategies used in Nelly as well. And it also gives an overview of the Nelly programme. Then there's a second course called Delivering Nelly, which focuses in depth on sort of actual practicalities of delivering the intervention. And then there's a third short course called Delivering Part 2 of Nelly, which teaches you how to deliver the short letter sounds and phonological awareness element, which is introduced in the second part of Nelly. Now, if you're delivering Nelly sessions yourself, you would need to complete all 3 of those courses to be kind of fully trained. But if you're a teacher in a class where Nelly is being delivered, or a special educational needs coordinator, or really anyone else involved in implementing Nelly, but not delivering any actual sessions, then you would only really need to complete the first course. Although the other courses are also open to you if you'd like to take them. And in fact, one of the benefits of signing up to Nelly is that your whole staffing team can access this training if they want to. And we've been told by some schools that they have actively encouraged their teaching staff from all year groups to complete the Language Fundamentals course in order to kind of boost their understanding of the importance of oral language and improving their teaching practices. And it's just worth saying as well that the training all follows the same sort of asynchronous learning model, which means that you can dive into them at times that suit you and take in the information at your own pace. And they're really nice and interactive, and they're supported by expert online mentors. So that means that throughout Nelly, you can sort of comment and ask questions and share your experiences and discuss things with other practitioners, but with the mentors as well.
Great. We've got a lot of international schools on this webinar, so there are a lot of the schools have high percentage of English as an additional language, or sort of EAL. Does Nelly support students with EAL as well?
Yes, it does. So a randomized control trial that was conducted in 2019 with 193 schools, a really large RCT, showed that children with English as an additional language made just as much language progress as children with English as their first language when they received Nelly. Excuse me. And this finding was actually also confirmed in the recent independent evaluation by NFER that I mentioned earlier. So absolutely, Nelly helps these children.
Great. Are you still there, Sarah?
Yes, sorry, I've got a bit of a coughing fit.
That's all right, no problem. That's great, and I think we've got maybe time for one more question. How does Nelly work? How many children can receive Nelly each year?
Yeah, great question. So Nelly it's a targeted intervention, excuse me, which consists of small group and individual sessions, and it's designed to be delivered to the children in each class with the weakest language skills, which is usually identified by Language Screen, one of our screeners. Usually schools deliver one Nelly group per class, which is between 4 and 6 children. Although, of course, you can run more groups if you'd like to, as long as you have the staffing resources available to do so. And actually, we do also have a whole class element of Nelly being launched this year, which is designed to be delivered in tandem with the targeted elements of Nelly. And the content of the whole class sessions builds out from the content of the Nelly sessions. So essentially, it's extending Nelly teaching out into the classroom so that the whole cohort can benefit.
Great, that's brilliant. The whole class Nelly set is really exciting, and looking forward to seeing that launch as well. Well, once again, thanks everyone for your time. We look forward to welcoming you to our next webinar. I'll post out the recording to everyone for this webinar if you'd like to share it with any of the teachers. Yeah, do join up for our oral language development webinars, really focusing on special needs for the next session. Thanks very much.